After this week's debate, if Democrats are falling out of love with Joe Biden, this rally was a plea for it to return. The president's electoral campaign is in trouble. Now, to make matters worse, the New York Times, who endorsed Joe Biden in 2020, called on the president to step down. After this.
Look, if...
And this.
For the ability to, for the...
This was in Georgia, a key swing state that Biden turned blue with a wafer-thin win in 2020. It was here where the alarm rang loudest amongst Democrats. You run campaigns for Democratic candidates. Are you sure that Joe Biden is the man who can keep Georgia a blue voting state?
The next several days, weeks, maybe even months will be spent by Democrats on kind of unwinding that performance and trying to give people confidence that the president is still up to the task. You know, there's a saying in politics, if you're explaining, then you're losing. And right now, I think we're explaining.
Now the party's heavy hitters have come out on social media to quell the rebellion. Barack Obama said, "Bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know," reflecting on his own poorly received performance in 2012. And another former president, Bill Clinton, said, "What matters is that Joe Biden has given us 3 years of solid leadership." Despite the support, there is no question which campaign is happier with the first debate.
That crooked Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
The focus on Donald Trump's rival allowed the veracity of his own claims to go unchallenged.
Our president made clear there is a contrast between someone who lies and someone who leads.
But are all the Democrats still following President Biden? The Vice President Kamala Harris might be out campaigning, but a lot could change by August National Convention.
Now, he's already won the contests that give him the electoral votes to be the nominee. Will there be meaningful questions asked by leaders in the party? And will there be something procedural to question or to, potentially undermine his standing?
Do you honestly feel that you can ask voters to lend a vote for a president in his current state?
Right. If Joe Biden isn't the guy, if he is not going to be the president, then very likely Donald Trump will be. And I just think that for many Americans poses an existential threat.
Mr. President, you ready to move?
Absolutely. Let's do this thing. Let's move.
This iteration of Joe Biden feels a long time ago now. His popularity in this era made him the man Democrats felt could beat Donald Trump. Now, as round two looms, is he still fit enough for the race?
Symeon Brown reporting. Now, earlier I spoke to the American pollster and political consultant Frank Luntz, who in the past has worked for Republican politicians. I began by asking how people are feeling this weekend after the presidential debate.
51 million Americans are engaged this weekend in conversation about what they saw on Thursday night, and a whole lot of people are very unhappy. We have a clear winner. Most polling shows 2/3 to 70% felt Trump won the debate, but that's not what's important. We did a focus group of undecided voters. 12 of the 14 of them swung to Trump. Only one went to Joe Biden, but even that's not important. You now have a significant percentage of Americans, including supporters of the current president, who believe that he is not capable of being president for the next 4 years, let alone the next 4 months.
We saw senior Democrats, though, we saw Harris straight after the debate acknowledging, look, he didn't have a great start, but it's okay on the facts, it's okay on the policy and what he is doing and the actions that he's taking. We saw that with Obama and Clinton as well. So senior Democrats are rallying round.
It really doesn't matter what the elite says, because the other 99% of the ones are going to make up the difference. And among undecided voters, they were shocked, and some of them really disappointed with what they saw. I emphasize to your British viewers, this was Joe Biden's choice. This debate was Joe Biden's effort. It was his strategy, and Trump agreed to it. It was Biden's effort to say, hey, guys, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm ready to lead for 4 more years. And he proved exactly the opposite. I'm very sympathetic to his situation. I don't like it when Republicans make fun of him.
But
But you can't, hold on. You can't get away from the fact that he had trouble completing sentences. He had trouble completing thoughts. There was no auto cue. There was no teleprompter. There was no one there to whisper in his ear. And it was far from an even acceptable performance. I'm sorry.
When he did speak the next day, though, among his supporters, among people, look, he acknowledged that might not have gone well, but he also said, I am the right person. He doubled down, saying that he is probably the only person that can beat Trump. Did that not give voters a sense of hope after what he acknowledged was not the greatest debate performance?
I saw that speech. He was outstanding. But there will only be a few million people who saw that speech. There were 50 million people who saw the debate. There's only a few million people that are really paying attention to the election. Most are casual observers. But you couldn't get away from the op-eds in the newspapers and the commentary on all the networks, including those that support the Democrats, that not only was it a subpar performance, it bordered on frightening.
Well, critics have said it is only the New York Times that have come out and done this. But I do wonder, in your opinion, you've been in politics for a long time. What do you think is going to happen come November? Who will win?
Well, at this point, I say so publicly, and it's a very dangerous prediction because things are so close. But if things stay as they are right now, Donald Trump is the next president. And this is something that the Biden campaign and Joe Biden himself have to consider. Is he true? I know he believes it, but is he truly the best Democrat to take on Donald Trump? I don't think so. The American people don't think so. We are in uncharted territory right now, and we really don't know where we're headed. Even through the weekend, we don't know where we're headed.
And just, Frank, finally, how do you feel about Donald Trump being your next president, potentially?
I do not want to answer that question. I have serious doubts about both candidates. But look, I'm a pollster, and my job is to read public opinion, not to try to influence it. And I will tell you that every time that Donald Trump spoke during that debate, just about every time, respondents in my focus group didn't like what they heard. They did not like his meanness. They did not like his attacks. They did not like his asides. Trump as a person is not popular among the undecided. But there's a difference between being unpopular and being capable of leading. And what they saw in Joe Biden was the incapability of 4 more years as president. So it was not a great night for Donald Trump. It was a horrible night for Joe Biden. And frankly, I don't think it was a good night for America either.
Frank Luntz, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also spoke to the historian, Professor Alan Lichtman, whose 1981 book, The Keys to the White House, attempted to create a system to predict presidential election winners. I began by asking him how disastrous the debate had been for Mr. Biden.
The media has vastly overstated this debate. 14 people are hardly a scientific sample. There have been now 2 or 3 polls taken since the debate, and they show not a bit of movement. Certainly, Joe Biden looked old. He looked like he lost a step or two. Trump was forceful and disciplined, but his entire approach was a torrent of lies, more than 30 lies. That's 1 lie for every minute and 20 seconds of speaking time.
Well, Obama and Clinton both came out and said, similar to you, that you can recover from a bad debate. But I do wonder, that was a focus group that was speaking. So these are ordinary voters who are watching, thinking possibly, I can't believe this is our choice between these two.
A lot of critics are saying the Democrats should replace Biden with a younger, more capable nominee. What all of these critics have in common is no track record of actually predicting presidential election results. And yet here they are giving that advice. And that advice would be to absolutely doom the Democrats to defeat. It would create an open seat and an internal party contest because there's no obvious heir apparent. 6 times since the turn of the 20th century, the party in power has faced an election with no incumbent running and an internal contest. And you know how many times they won those elections? 0. They lost every one of them.
So if Biden stays, he wins.
I didn't say that. I said if Biden stays, the Democrats have a much greater chance of winning. I haven't made a final call on my keys yet because there are still 4 shaky keys that I haven't called: third party, social unrest, foreign/military success and failure. I expect to make my call after the Democratic convention in August.
Alan, can I just ask you one final question, which is, do your keys to the White House hold up, given everything that we have seen this year? The convictions that Donald Trump has, the debate that Biden has had, and the constant questions around his suitability and his age. Do your keys mean that, actually, do they withstand everything extraordinary that we've seen in this last year?
You know, I'm not psychic Gene Dixon with a crystal ball. I'm not Speaker Mike Johnson who claims the Almighty speaks to him. The keys are based on history, and there certainly can be events that are so unprecedented and so cataclysmic that they break the pattern of history. That hasn't happened in the last 40 years, but I'm not so arrogant to say it's impossible that I could be wrong, but I am sticking to my keys. Everything else, as I said, is unscientific, unsupported, meaningless speculation.
Okay, and Lippman, thank you very much for joining us. We'll have to speak to you again after the convention in August. Thank you.
Absolutely, you know where to find me.